Welcome to your daily science news bulletin. Okay, from a gene that might just redefine Alzheimer's to a discovery that's rewriting our own family tree, science had a pretty big day. Let's dive into the breakthroughs from January 24th, 2026. First up, we're taking a look inside ourselves. We've got two major developments in how we understand the human brain, and honestly, both of them could totally reshape how we treat some of our most complex conditions. So, let's start with Alzheimer's. For decades, right, the thinking has been it's this complicated mix of lifestyle, your environment, your genes. But what if it's actually way more genetically driven than we ever imagined? New research is pointing a huge spotlight on one single gene. And the scale of this finding is, well, it's just staggering. Researchers now think that variations in just one gene, APOE, could be connected to as many as 9 out of every 10 cases of Alzheimer's. This is a massive shift, you know? It suggests that even the common versions of this gene, the ones we used to think were low risk, might be playing a much bigger role. This could completely refocus the entire global search for a cure. Sticking with the brain, let's move on to another deep mystery: auditory hallucinations. For people who experience them, often with conditions like schizophrenia, hearing voices is a very powerful reality. And some new research is suggesting this could all stem from a very specific kind of mix-up inside the brain. So here's the core idea. Your brain has a system, right? Its job is to tell the difference between you and not you. When you think, this system basically tags that inner voice as your own. Well, this study suggests that for some people, that system has a glitch. The brain doesn't recognize its own thoughts, and instead, it misinterprets them as coming from the outside world, as voices. And that gives us a brand new target for therapies, trying to kind of reboot that internal feedback loop. Okay, so from the inner workings of our modern brains, let's jump in a time machine and travel way back to the very origins of our species. A new discovery is pushing our timeline back and completely redrawing the map of our ancient human family. 2.6 million years. I mean, just let that number sink in. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around. And that's the age of a fossil that was found so far from where it was supposed to be that it's forcing us to rethink a huge chapter in the human story. That's right, it's a rare jawbone dug up in Ethiopia, and it belongs to one of our ancient relatives, a species called Paranthropus. But what makes this so incredibly important isn't just its age, it's where they found it. Get this, it was found hundreds of miles farther north than any other Paranthropus fossil, ever. We used to think this species was kind of picky, that they were stuck in one very specific environment. This one single bone tells us a completely new story, that they were way more adaptable and widespread, thriving in all sorts of different habitats all across ancient Africa. All right, let's bring it back from the distant past to the really urgent present. We've got two new findings about the state of our home planet, from its highest peaks all the way down to its deepest oceans. So, a major global review has just delivered a pretty stark warning. The world's mountain regions are heating up, and they're doing it at an alarming and frankly unexpectedly high rate. And this isn't just about melting glaciers. This is about a fundamental threat to our planet's entire water cycle. Here's the heart of the problem. The warming is happening much, much faster at high altitudes than it is down in the lowlands. So what does that mean? It means all that crucial winter snow, which is basically a natural water tower for us, is turning into rain. And that rain just runs off immediately. This single shift is directly threatening the fresh water supplies for over 1 billion people who depend on that steady mountain runoff to survive. Now, from the water running off our mountains, let's follow it all the way to the sea. There's another environmental challenge that's coming from a place you might not expect. A new study has tracked down a huge, but mostly hidden, source of ocean microplastics, and the trail starts on our farms. So it turns out that these plastic-coated fertilizers, the ones designed to release nutrients slowly, are a massive source of ocean plastic. The study found that while rivers do carry some plastic, the direct drainage from farm fields sends way more of these tiny particles straight onto our beaches. This really helps solve the puzzle of why so much plastic just seems to appear on our shores, seemingly from out of nowhere. And finally, for our last two stories, let's look way out into the cosmos and then zoom all the way in to the very building blocks of matter itself. First up, there's some really exciting news for anyone interested in the search for extraterrestrial life, and it's coming from Jupiter's icy moon, Europa.
For a long, long time, scientists have wondered, could that huge ocean under the ice shell actually get the nutrients it needs for life? Well, it looks like the answer is yes.
Okay, so here's how it seems to work. On Europa's surface, you've got this salty, nutrient-packed ice. Well, it can get dense and heavy enough to actually break free and start sinking. It then travels all the way down through the moon's thick ice shell, basically delivering a care package of essential ingredients, the building blocks for life, directly into that massive dark ocean below. For over 100 years, chemists pretty much believed that making certain kinds of molecular shapes was simply impossible. There was a fundamental rule in organic chemistry, and it said, nope, can't be done. But, some rules are just made to be broken. Chemists over at UCLA have just created molecules that totally defy a century-old principle called Bredt's rule. The rule basically said you couldn't put a certain kind of chemical bond in a specific spot in a molecule because it would be way too strained, kind of like trying to bend a steel rod in a way it was never meant to bend. Well, guess what? They just did. By building these really bizarre cage-shaped molecules, they've actually forced atoms into shapes that we all thought were way too unstable to even exist. And this isn't just some cool lab experiment. It unlocks completely new blueprints for designing advanced drugs and for making super efficient chemical catalysts. It's really a whole new chapter for organic chemistry. And that's a wrap on the science news for today. From the incredible complexities of our own brains to the fundamental chemistry of the cosmos. Another update will follow in 24 hours. Hey, if you found this valuable, please do us a favor and like this video and subscribe for more daily updates from the world of science. Thanks for watching.